Genesis chapter 12. Now, the Lord had said to Abram, get you out of your country. Now, what country did he live in? Of the Chaldees. So that's where he was, and God had said to him, leave your country and your relatives and from your father's family and go to the land that I will show you. So he had to break away from his family and to go to a land that he didn't know. And in the New Testament we read that Abram is our great example. And what this means is that we're also asked to go out from all that we know and are comfortable with on a journey to God's kingdom, which although we do know some things about it, in another sense we don't really know very much because it's hard to imagine what eternity will be like. So God had told him to go, but actually he wasn't completely obedient. He didn't leave his family. His family actually decided, we are going to leave Ur. And so he went with Lot, his relative, who he was ideally supposed to have divided from, and with his father. And they travelled to this other city called Haran, and they lived there for a bit until his father dies. God said, I will make of you a great nation. Don't forget, he didn't have any children at that time. I will bless you and make your name great. You will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who curses you. All of the families of the earth will be blessed in you. In the New Testament, Peter says that the blessing is the blessing of forgiveness of sin. So this is a wonderful thing that had been promised to Abraham, although he didn't really appreciate it all at the time, but he still said yes to it. And that's like us when we get baptized. We also don't understand absolutely everything, but we still believe and say yes to God and start the journey. So Abraham went as Yahweh had spoken to him. Lot went with him. Now, God had told him to leave all his relatives, and that included Lot. But Lot still went with him at this stage. So he wasn't perfectly obedient, just like none of us are. Abraham was 75 years old when he left Haran. Abraham took Sarai, his wife, Lot, his brother's son, all their wealth that they had gathered, and they went to go into the land of Canaan. And into the land of Canaan they came. So this was the land that God had promised him. Abraham passed through the land to the place of Shechem, to the oak of Moreh, and the Canaanite was then in the land. So he gets to this country and finds that it's inhabited by other people. Yahweh appeared to Abraham and said, I will give this land to your seed. So he's saying, well, you're not going to get it maybe yourself fully, but your seed will, your descendant, your son. He built an altar there to Yahweh, who appeared to him. He left from there to the mountain on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to Yahweh and called on the name of Yahweh. Abram travelled, going on further toward the south, and there was a famine in the land. Now we would have thought, oh, well, I've sacrificed everything to come all this way to this land I've been promised, and there's a famine in the land. It was all dry. Couldn't really graze their animals or grow crops. It was all too dry. So all the time he was being encouraged to see that the real fulfillment was going to be in the future, at the time of his seed or his son, his special son. And he was going to have to be resurrected from the dead for that to be true. So Abram went down into Egypt to live as a foreigner there, for the famine was so severe in the land of Canaan. When he came near to enter Egypt, he said to Sarai, his wife, look, I know you're very beautiful. It will happen when the Egyptians see you that they'll say, this is his wife, and they'll kill me, but they will save you alive. So please just say that you're my sister, that it may be well with me for your sake, and so that I might live because of you. Well, that wasn't a very faithful thing to say. It wasn't loving towards Sarah. It was very selfish, and it was lacking in faith in the promises that God had given him. It happened that when Abraham had come into Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was fruitful. The princes of Pharaoh saw her and praised her to Pharaoh, and she was taken into Pharaoh's house, and he dealt well with Abram for her sake. He had sheep, cattle, male donkeys, male servants, female donkeys, and camels. But the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. Pharaoh called Abram and said, "What is this that you've done to me? Why didn't you tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say, 'She's my sister,' so that I took her to be my wife? Now therefore see your wife, take her and go your way." Pharaoh commanded men about him, and they brought him on the way with his wife and all that he had. So you see there that Abram failed. And what's worse is that Abram and Isaac, they failed, both of them again, in this same way. They did not learn the lesson. So Abram, all the same, is set up as a wonderful man of faith. The point is, he wasn't perfect. And God doesn't demand perfection. And that's why he looks at you and me, and he's willing to accept us if we believe, although we won't be perfect.